Oh, hello there. Yes, well, we're a solid week into the spring and it's still cold. And I've got a new hat. Yeah, it'll fit me in with the Gen Y's? I don't know. I'm getting lost with me alphabet because we're moving backwards, and yet won't we eventually get to X again? I don't know. Anyway, yes, the weekend, I'm pleased to say, and one of the great things, of course, is that, like a stopped clock, occasionally I can be right. I remember one person having a go at me in the comments because when I'd said that a stopped clock is right twice a day, a la with an ale and I, they found it hugely amusing to the extent of, well, probably umpteen clown emojis because, according to them, stop clocks are never right. Anyway, another similar character. I got into a long discussion because I was using the word fascist. They took a dislike to, the way that certain people do. And one of the things they were having to go at me was because they were saying that Jason Stanley, one of the well-known writers on fascism, had said from a few years previously that Trump wasn't a fascist because he didn't tick the boxes, and so therefore yesterday I had to smile at this. Yale professor who studies fascism fleeing US to work in Canada. Jason Stanley, yes, him, the same one who says grandmother fled Berlin with his father in 1939, says US may become fascist dictatorship. Yes, which, I don't know, that's stopped clock thing, isn't it? Yes. And I seem to be being proved increasingly right about lots of things about education. Always amazes me. People that don't work in education always know a lot better than me. But, that whole thing about, VAT on schools and the way that it's driving schools out of business. And yet, when you actually read the story, inevitably you get to it. There was this one, which basically has its origins in the Daily Mail, but GB News has decided to run with it. Isn't it dreadful? Labour Party, etc. Parents fume as £36,000 a year private school gives 2 days' notice before closing after failing to register pupils for GCSEs. Yet you may remember that story. There was this school that didn't actually manage to enter its pupils for GCSE. The way you don't, I suppose. Yeah. Anyway, it transpires, despite what GB News might want you to think, that actually it isn't to do with VAT on schools or indeed anything else. It transpires basically that the business model was completely up the spout and it has been for well over a year. Yeah, that's kind of important. And basically, the people that were running it couldn't do it for toffee, and therefore they've just gone, well, there's nothing to do with us, mate. We're certainly not going to answer to parents. So they've just walked away from it, in essence. Still, it's the type of thing you can only expect from the private sector, that kind of personal quality of, people sticking two fingers up at you, but in a kind of servicey way, eh? Yeah. Anyway, oh Jesus, it was a day yesterday. But I did have to smile at Nick Tenconi, which is about as British a name as Dolmio Pizza or Dolmio Sauce or Domino Pizzas. Yes. Anyway, yeah, nothing says Italian British like, Tenconi. Anyway, he likes to hang around annoying lefties. Appears to be his job. And he posted this. Mass deportations solves the housing crisis, solves terror attacks, solves the rape crisis, solves NHS waiting lists, solves school places, and solves overcrowding. And as he put at the top, mass deportations solve most of the problems facing modern Britain. There are literally no negatives to removing those who do not belong in Britain, says the bloke with the very suspiciously pizza-like surname. And that got me thinking about what we could do potentially with all of these people who certainly don't like it here but want to get rid of others. Is why don't we get rid of them? Why don't we round up all of the grifters and we can club together and get them their own space? Because if you've got a couple of million quid, you can basically buy an empty Scottish island. There's one here. Might be quite nice. It's got housing on it and anything. Because let's face it, with these people with their superb white skins, entrepreneurial spirit and DNA, it wouldn't be long before you had a totally and brilliant, thriving community with its own currency, and they'd all be multi-billionaires. I mean, it'd probably take them a year, granted, but I think it would be really well worthwhile. And very soon they'd have a booming population, wouldn't they? Because they'd all be so heavily invested in having children, and I'm sure the women wouldn't commit suicide by throwing themselves off cliffs in such an environment. No, that wouldn't be the thing. But then that got me thinking about, well, why stop there? If there are no negatives there, why don't we go down the whole route of the four dark judges in Judge Dredd? Yeah, because after all, if you think about it, yeah, crime is only committed by the living, yeah? And there's all of these, bad things happening in the UK. But what's the one thing they have in common? Yes, all of the problems are committed by living people. Now, think about it, right? Right, okay. Housing crisis, dead people, no need for housing, right? Terror attacks, dead people. Enough said, right? Yeah. Rape crisis, inevitably as much as, yeah. School waiting list, well, loads of dead kids, it's not a problem. Yeah. Solves overcrowding in one fell swoop. Yes. Yes. The crime is life, isn't it? Yes. You see, why bother stopping at such half-hearted solutions? And the answer is, of course, that these people are just lightweights. Yes. I mean, it might be that fey professors from Harvard, Yale, who were born in England and fled the Nazis might need to run away, but I think the rest of us can easily sort them out after all. After all. I don't think they're that brilliant, to be quite honest. They do seem remarkably man-jack, and it is man-jack, to be incapable of almost anything other than basically suggesting to the rest of us that we should get rid of our friends. Yes, I think they should go. Yeah, let's just put them on an island where they can hopefully do no harm. We can come back in a year and pick up the bodies. Yes. I don't think it'll be death or mortis or fire that will have killed them, but it might well be fear. Do have a glorious weekend. Don't buy yourself a silly hat, warm though it may be. Get yourself a sensible one. Enjoy.